Hey pals, welcome to season 4, episode 1 of Pen, Picture, and Chat. Today we have with us Ivy Ford.
Hey.
Welcome, Ivy. Thank you so much for taking your time to be on the show.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so let's just get started. Can you tell us what it is like to be a blues singer in Chicago?
That's horrible. No, I'm kidding. I'm so joking. It's an adventure, and it definitely takes you, like, it's taken me outside of Chicago. Yeah, I mean, it's for me now, like, I don't know no different, kind of, whether it be Chicago or outside of Chicago and traveling. So, nowadays, I don't really, like, dissect it that much. It's just kind of second nature, Like I was telling you, like, today's my first day after, I think, like 15 shows in a row of travel, which is a little intense.
Yeah.
So, not that I have been on a flight or a plane anywhere, but I feel a little jet lagged.
I mean, travel is exhausting. That's true.
Yeah. So, but no, it's definitely an experience. It's cool because there's blues musicians and blues musicians all over the world, but Chicago's considered like the capital of blues. Some would argue like Memphis is the blues capital, but I don't know.
It's Chicago.
Yeah, it's Chicago. Or at least definitely Chicago is the electric blues capital of the world. That cannot be argued. I don't think. I would bet most of my money on that.
So okay, I'm ignorant. What is an electric blues like?
Oh man. So well, I mean, so like the history of blues music and stuff like that, started from the Deep South. It's slave music essentially, and during kind of part of like the Great Migration, or even before that, when a lot of black folk were coming up from down south for jobs and stuff like that, they'd come to Chicago and had blue. I mean, a lot of us still have like straight jobs or day jobs and stuff like that, but they were used to down south playing blues music or whatever. I mean, it's cliche, but it's true. On the front porch acoustically, and nothing was amplified. There was no microphones, nothing like that. And then coming up to Chicago and other major cities, playing in clubs and juke joints that were super, packed with people and loud and rowdy and drinking and dancing and Lord knows what else. In order to kind of get that the music louder, thus came the necessity for the amplifier and electricity and microphones.
Yeah.
So definitely which then in turn like changed the whole sound of, not the whole sound, but had a big change on the way blues music or traditional blues music sounded. Thus electric blues, and that's where you get the Muddy Waters and Buddy Guy and so on and so forth, So yeah, that's the different electric blues.
That's so cool. So so you said that it changed. What changed about blues? Like just the sound, I guess. Like what?
The sound was a lot bigger, literally bigger and louder. And in turn, I think results in a much more flashier, bold, delivery of it. More that like rock and roll approach to it. So that's, I mean, don't get me wrong, even now, I mean, you can, and there's gear and equipment now. You actually, ironically, there's amplification that you buy use in order to get the original old school sound, which is acoustic. It's the psychology on that thought, thinking about it. But yeah, the major difference and change in the sound was how bold and kind of brass it became with amplification, and then the whole culture in a big city like Chicago.
Wow.
I think I would know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
At least enough to not sound too ignorant, but yeah.
And that's cool. I like that, especially too, because kind of that boldness of it. I feel like Chicagoans are like bold people too, like that just really like.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're bold, and like any major city, like, how do you say, you get so much different influences, culturally and traditions and stuff like that. So I don't think there's a way you can't be bold and colorful and what have you. So and I think too, Chicago, and I've always said this even from when I first started playing Chicago blues or whatever. there is I think there's a certain, and I don't know what it is necessarily, but there is a distinct air and sound and just, I don't know, call it swagger for lack of a better term, that Chicago musicians and entertainers and blues performers have that stands out from, say, if you go down to Memphis, or if you go, definitely like if you go to the West Coast or even East Coast blues or what, or even overseas, all of which I've had at least a little bit of taste with, and I've like, there's a difference. Not good or bad, but there's a difference.
Just such an identity, which is just cool.
Yeah, and then camaraderie, like between, I mean, the musician world in general can be very small, or smaller than you would think. Blues and roots musician community, really small, regardless if it's, again, here, bi-coastal or even across the pond. A lot of people, we all know each other or know of each other. So when it comes to like Chicago blues musicians, I don't know, there's a certain camaraderie or like, yeah, you're from Chicago, you get it. There's certain things you can talk about and kind of talk shop with. You don't have to explain to each other because we just get it,
Yeah. So you're talking about this camaraderie. Do you like know a lot of other musicians in the city, work with them a lot and stuff like that? Yeah.
Yes, and yes. I was saying like Friday I did at Navy Pier, they had a blues Christmas thing, and so it was me, Shamika Copeland, Toronzo Cannon, Lil Ed, and Billy Branch. All of which, I mean, Billy Branch has been around for a real long time and is considered, one of like the original blues giants from back in the day. And I'm trying to think. I don't think I'd ever really played with him before necessarily. I might have jammed with him, or I know there was one time he might have came into Buddy Guys when I was playing in Saturn. But so I never played with him, but obviously I know him. He knows me. And then like Toronzo Cannon, him and I actually did an international tour this time last year. But I've known him over 10 years. We were talking about that, over 10 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. So the first time I met Shamika Copeland, but we had known about each other, had heard about each other, and she's originally from New York, now lives on the West Coast, and so we had known about each other but hadn't met each other in person. So that's a perfect example of we know each other even though we live far apart and had never met, but there's still that that familiarity of some kind. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean that's just a small example of musicians that I know in Chicago and surrounding Chicago, and like that kind of cast of players are pretty in the public eye, or pretty on the foreground of things. But I know a lot of musicians that are maybe not as celebrity like, but yeah, we all know each other and have worked together, whether it's like, hey, I need a drummer, or hey, I need a bass player or another guitar player, can you do the gig? All the time. Yeah, happens.
That's so cool. You mentioned this Navy Pier Blues Festival thing. Do you do a lot of those? Is that true?
Well, this is the first time I had done Navy Pier, their Blues Christmas, and I guess they've done it like every year, sans the pandemic, but have done it every year. This is the first time I had ever done it, and I was so honored to be and I said it actually at the show. I was like, I was just excited to get the call, to be considered on that level of performers. But I've done the Chicago Blues Fest several times. I've done Taste of Chicago a couple times too, and then I do festivals all over regionally, and haven't done a whole lot on the coasts yet. Hopefully yet is the key thing. And then I've been actually over to France and Belgium several times for festivals.
Wow.
Yeah, that's been a whirlwind.
What's that like? So being
it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
What is that like?
It's nuts. It's cool. It's a lot. The travel is a lot, and the because there's a lot of times when the tour that I did with Toronzo Cannon, I think we did, what was it? It was 20 shows in 22 days or 23 days.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was a lot of travel. So we were France, Belgium, I know at one point we were traveling through, and we weren't in Switzerland, but like we could see Switzerland. Almost like being way up in the UP and you see Canada.
Yeah.
So that was really crazy because literally it was okay. Go check into the hotel, go do sound check, come back to the hotel to change and stuff like that. Do the show. There was at least once or twice where we didn't even stay at the hotel. We had to pack up and get back on the road. So that way we could make, drive the X amount of hours until the next town and next thing. So that it was crazy. Now it was neat because on that tour, there was a handful of, venues and events that I'd done, I think the summer prior. So it was neat because I had seen like a lot of familiar faces that had seen me the last time. I was familiar with the venues, which that's always comfortable.
Yeah.
Not that we're, always not adaptable to new surroundings, but it is nice to have somewhat of familiarity.
Yeah.
Especially in a foreign country. Like that's
yeah,
that's
you'd be like,
cool.
I've
That's
been here
kinda-
before.
Yeah. That's kind of nice,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so it's a lot going on all the time, a lot of stimulation. The first time I went, I'd never been overseas for music at all, and I remember I'd actually gone the first time with John Primer and his band for a blues camp / big concert thing in when was it? I think it was October of, it'll be almost 3 years now. Yeah, October I think of 2020 or 2021. It was definitely during the pandemic though, because it was like we all had to get our papers, so to speak, to make sure everyone was cool to travel and what have you. And I remember I was on the plane getting ready for them, to take off, and I was texting my mom, and I'm like, I'm on the plane getting ready for takeoff. Oh my God, Mom, I'm going to France. Like, what is this? Like, it was kind of all, sunk in. So you have that kind of aspect of just, I am traveling to a foreign country to do. I got asked. I got asked to come to a foreign country because they want to hear me perform. They want to, So that's you can't think about it too much, or at least not in the moment, because if so, you might lose your mind. you might lose your cookies and can't can't follow through. But in hindsight, when you have some time to reflect, it's like holy cow,
Yeah.
So it's cool. It's an adventure. You meet a lot of different people, see a lot of different things, different cultures, So it's interesting. It's a time.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do like Europeans react to blues music?
They friggin' love it.
They do?
Love it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I couldn't tell you why. I don't know. I mean, there's one thing, and this is I'm speculating here, spitballing. I don't know if because like blues music specifically is one of the few things that originates in America.
Yeah.
Like, so it's a very true American thing. It came out in not so nice American ways, but it is what it is. And so, and I don't say this like call it start nothing. But a lot of people would argue or say, and I've seen it from other European countries as a collective, like, oh man, the United States, that's some big stuff. So maybe the reason why blues music and roots and Americana is so popular in other countries is because it is so like American.
Yeah.
Like the cheeseburger of,
Yeah.
It's a funny analogy, but
no, I kind of get it. Yeah.
So that might be why there is such a demand and like relicing and fandom over there. Specifically, like most of the places I've been have been has been France. And they, oh my gosh, they love it. I mean, I'm trying to think. France, Belgium's cool too. I like Belgium a lot, actually. But the French culture really loves, France in general really loves blues music. I've never been, but Japan's real hot for blues, I guess.
Really?
Yeah. It's wild. It's wild. And it's funny too, because like sometimes people ask me, well, what do you sing and like perform? Isn't weird? Like they don't understand what you're saying though, because you're singing in English. I said, no. Depending on what you're singing, they'll know some of the words to these songs better than you do, and they'll call you on it, which is insane. So yeah, I don't necessarily know why, other than the fact that it is such an American thing, which is maybe why they get so much.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like, it's not like they're exposed to it all the time, so it has that sort of like,
sure. And then obviously, there's the whole cliche verse, the Blues had a baby and they called it rock and roll. So then you get into the Stones and the Beatles and all that jazz or all that blues. So then that's even more, blues and rock and roll. It doesn't get any more, I think, cooler and rock star and American as that. So maybe I think that might be, I don't know, that might be why they think it's pretty cool. But yeah, when we go over there, we're like rock stars.
Wow.
It's insane. It's insane. It's absolutely young and old. It's crazy. And I mean, I'm grateful. We're always all grateful. We're like,
what's happening?
What the hell? And then as musicians, when we talk shop, we always joke because we're like, yeah, we gotta, we have to leave home to get more clout and fandom and appreciation sometimes, which makes no sense. But so it's very weird. I've had more repeat customers or repeat audience members that have, how do you say, arranged their either holiday travel or work travel to the States or Chicago from foreign country around knowing whether I'm playing or like other musicians here that are playing. I've seen them more often and more repetitively than sometimes folks that like live up the street.
Yeah. They're like, oh, I got you next time, Ivy. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I can see what you're doing. Like, whatever. It's weird. So you got, talk about trying not to get a complex sometimes over that, but.
It's cool though.
Yeah, you got
in its own way. Yeah,
it is what it is.
So you're on Spotify.
Yeah.
I know this because I've creeped your Spotify.
Yes.
I've listened to a lot of your music already because it's great.
Oh man.
It's just true. Are you able to like track where your listens are? I don't know how.
So I think as an artist on Spotify, they actually might have something like on like an artist kind of desktop or like online workspace where you can see like the analytics, but also depending on how you publish or release your music and distribute it, especially digitally, depending on whatever host site or whatever is doing that, you can see that too. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's I couldn't tell you last time I checked it, honestly. But yeah, you can see that, which is I know especially when I came out with my first album back in, oh lordy, when was that? 2018, 17, 18. That was the first time I was like, oh, I'm online. It was like the equivalent, like I'm on TV. I'm on radio.
Yeah.
So that was really cool, and I remember I was seeing, and at that time, I think when I first checked into it, I was just seeing it being listened to and streamed like just out of state, and that was big stuff for me.
Yeah,
now it's like out of country.
Wow,
out of continent. What?
Pretty soon the aliens will be tuning.
Well, it could be. Yeah. But yeah, so it is. Yeah, you can track that, which is neat.
That is cool. Yeah. So you've clearly been in the industry for a long time.
10. Well, I've been full time 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
And thanks. And full time, that's what pays the bills.
Yeah.
So I don't think I owe anybody any money. I don't think so. Don't come.
It's true. We said it on the show, so it's true.
Right.
So what's that like? That full time? Are there busy seasons? How does that work for you?
So there were definitely like summertime could be super busy because that's festival season. That's festival season. If like I've played weddings, which is funny because people, especially nowadays, like we. A DJ or like a wedding band, not blues. But no, I've played weddings. I played funerals, actually. I played the Irish funeral once. Holy cow, it was the biggest party. Yeah, I know. And I didn't really know until, like, I didn't know the extreme, or like what, I didn't know it was actually like for a funeral or like a wake like thing until like I kind of got there. And it was like, yeah, by the way, this is why we hired you. I was like,
they're like, oh yeah, by the way, someone
it was oh my gosh, it was
shuffled. Yeah,
it was wild. So summer definitely is definitely gonna be the busy season. Definitely because it's festival season. And so that's where we can get a lot of traveling in, kind of pinballing around. Usually it's kind of a general, and it's just a very general like umbrella. Usually January, February can be a little slow for folks. Knock on wood though, and I'm not saying that, I'm just saying, the last couple years, January and February have been like my busiest time.
Wow.
Last year, February, I worked probably, oh my God. I know I worked every Friday and Saturday and almost Sunday. And I had at least 2 shows during the week.
Wow,
like the whole
yeah.
month of February. Now, granted, my birthday is in February. It's at the end, it's the 26th. So I'm very much like, hey, we're partying the whole birthday month. Come see me, come book me, you know. But yeah, I'm lucky that for the most part, I usually haven't had like a real dry season, which is other than COVID, which is a whole nother,
yeah.
As I like to say, some people say a whole nother like ball of wax. I like to say it's a whole nother like bottle of whiskey, you know, to drink over and have a discussion about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say the busiest season is summer. And then I don't like it. I don't know. I guess it can be, it is what you know, make of it.
Mhm.
I do all my own booking. I haven't, I'm not with like an agency or anything like that. I'm not with a label. And there's some people that'll ask, well, why not? Why haven't you? There hasn't been a need necessarily. And then also with that comes like, I'm able to have full control of whatever I do, both creatively and work-wise, all the above. And quite honestly, I like being the one that's working directly, whoever I'm working for. I think I know they like it, because when I have people that say, how can I book you or this and that, I say, here's my card, or go to, you know, my website or whatever. And then I say, I do all my own booking. So when you're reaching out to me, it's me that you're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
Which even when I say that, sometimes people say, we're trying to get a hold of Ivy Ford. And I respond, I'm like, hey, it's me.
What's up?
Yeah, you know, and I think I take a lot of pride in that, because it is a lot of hard work. But for me, it's, if you're going to work hard, might as well do it for yourself, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah, that is a lot of hard work. So how much would you say is like active performing versus like that kind of stuff, like getting yourself gigs? Like, what's the ratio there?
Man,
because that sounds like that's like 2 jobs.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I don't break it down, because like one goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
So it's just like a constant 24/7. I don't know, hamster wheel. That sounds awful. I mean, I am working. No. Yeah. But yeah, I would say it's 50-50, but it makes more, doesn't make any sense like mathematically, but just makes sense to say 100% and 100%. They go, you know.
Yeah. You're giving 100%. Yeah.
So, but again, it's worth it. Because a lot of times too, depending on how, on the person, sometimes it's just as much work. If you say you have like a manager or an agent or something like that, they're going to talk to you as the band leader or the main artist, and then you have to relay that message to whoever you're working with musician wise. And then, you know, so it can be where there's like too many cooks in the kitchen, and that's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of responsibility and a lot of accountability to keep track of it all myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I know all the moving parts, and there's no like, oh, let me ask for permission or ask what's going on, or, you know, which that's more stressful to me than that. Where some people would rather say, oh, well, I need to check in first.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's what they need for the direction. I'm like, no, please don't tell me what to do, because it's triggering. Don't do it. No. You know, so it depends, I think, on the person, what works best for them. For me, I like doing it all.
So just to like sum this up, you've toured globally.
Yeah.
And you got that yourself.
This is true. They called me. And I'm humble, don't get me wrong. I'm like, yeah, they called me. I did it myself. No, not like that. Every time I've gotten the opportunity, even when I got the Navy Bear thing, when they called me, I was like, cool, yeah, I'm there, and very professional. I hung up the phone. On the inside, I'm like, you know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was definitely like they reached out to me, and then yeah, the international stuff. It's always been, hey, we talked to so and so. We've heard a lot about you, and would you consider doing this? I'm like, okay, cool. And especially when it's come like from my other peers. So the first time I went overseas, I went with John Primer, and it was because he specifically said, I like what you do, and we need another team member, so to speak, and I choose you. Well, he could choose anyone,
Yeah.
So that's I really respect that, because that says a lot, because he's been around forever and is still rocking and rolling and winning Grammys and stuff like that, and to be considered as somewhat of an equal there. Okay, I must be.
Hell yeah.
Right,
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so it's
crazy.
it's cool. It's crazy, but it's cool.
So you're talking about all these people and you're throwing lots of names around. It sounds like you have you're relatively close like connections with some really incredible people. Do you ever, you're a star, do you ever get starstruck?
Yeah. Oh my God. It depends. I mean, it depends. Well, okay, when I did the Navy Pier thing and I met Shamika Copeland for the first time, and this is funny because she was like, I'm so excited to meet you, to me. And I'm like,
you're like,
and I even said that. I was like, oh, come on now, quit playing. Because the feeling's mutual. And then depending on the situation and where you're at, you don't want to completely fangirl out when you don't want to be too cool for school, but you also don't want to look too green and too novice.
Yeah.
So it's fine balance. I still get starstruck over Buddy Guy. What kicked off my career in Chicago, I just turned 21. I think it was in 2015. And I got a call from Buddy Guy's Legends. Hey, we need an opener for the Buddy shows in January. And we saw you at the club. I forget who I'd come to the club to see. And they let me sit in. And because at that time, Buddy Guys was always streaming their shows and archiving. They had seen the crew over at Legends. They had seen that video, and had recognized me. And I don't know how they got my number per se, but they got it. And so they had called me, and again, we were like, hey, we need an opener. We saw this video of you. Do you have your own band? I'm like, yeah. Are you free this day? Yeah. Okay. And I remember I hung up the phone and I was like, oh my God. Whoa. And that was the first time, wasn't the first time I'd seen Buddy Guy in person, but definitely the first time I had was that close.
Yeah.
And it was like, I didn't know if I wanted to laugh, cry, or pass out, but still I got to keep the stuff together. I got a show to do.
Yeah.
And that was, like I said, that was in 2015. So that was almost 10 years ago. And then still to this day, when we play at Legends and he is in town, he's in the club, and he'll usually sit in with us. And it's still oh my gosh, it's wow. To share the stage, even for a little bit, is a lot. And then I actually, Friday night after I left Navy Pier, because it was an early gig, I stopped over at Legends and he was there hanging out at the bar. And I sat next to him and I was like, hey, did you have a good Thanksgiving? And he's like, yeah, it was all right. He was real down to earth. And I've had that, I've had conversations with him. That wasn't the first time, but it still gets, it's still, if it don't, then you're doing, I don't know, there's something wrong with you. So yeah, that's definitely, you get starstruck over that. And then I've done some festivals with, with some heavy hitters still in circuit now, that it's wow. And I don't know if it's necessarily starstruck or just an awestruck of the whole situation, because here it's I'm on the same level as these musicians that when I first was starting out, I was just excited to see or to know of, and here we're on break together and sharing a beer together, and they say to me, oh yeah, Ivy's always working, she's got it, she's doing this. I'm like, oh man, oh good. So yeah, it gets me, and like I said, I think for someone, if it doesn't, then there's something wrong with you. You need to be
you need reality kind of check sort of situation.
Get it together. Ain't nobody too good. Calm down.
Yeah. So you've been doing this full time for 10 years.
Yeah, about 10 years.
About 10 years. What enabled you to make that switch from doing it,
well, I did have day jobs. My last regular job, I was actually a chef for a catering company. It was a family friend.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a family friend's catering company. I literally started out just cleaning the kitchen once a week, cleaning the kitchen and like the bathrooms after parties and weddings.
Mm-hmm.
Then it turned into, hey, we need like an extra set of hands to peel potatoes and cut onions. Then it was, can you read a recipe? And then it was like, hey, you know, we trust you. We need you to, you know, work a party, or you're like the head person at a wedding. All at the same time, I was hosting open jams, going to open jams, doing like really local, you know, $50 a person per gig that I was getting paid. Doing all that at the same time. So at least 4 times out of the week, I was working till like 2 or 3 in the morning doing the music stuff, and then back in the kitchen at like 7:30, 8 a.m. The candle started burning at both ends a little too quickly, and something had to kind of go. And at the time, I'm like, well, I guess let me kind of like take that leap, take the jump, and I guess if I'm hungry enough, I'll figure out a way, or I'll be persistent enough to call venues, call bars, be like, hey, this is me, I have a band, you know, whatever. And at that time too, sometimes I go to a bar or venue, like just cold. I go there in person, just cold, and be like, hey, I was wondering, you know, or would call cold. And then this was, I mean, Facebook was a thing and social media was a thing, but it was all about like dropping off band posters and putting out flyers and, you know, pretty old school rudimentary stuff. It was like literally a lot of foot hustle, so to speak. And then I tell people too, from experience, it is weird, but it's true. It's easier to get gigs when you have gigs, because you usually will get a gig after talking to someone when you're from a gig you're on. So it's like, you know, chicken and the egg sort of thing. And then of course the $1 million question too, you know, like I said, is like, well, how did that start? And I can't tell you exactly, like, you know, I think there's only a couple like monumental moments. So one was, like I said, when I was at Buddy Guy's and I was sitting in and I didn't expect anything from it. Someone heard about me, reviewed the videos and saw me play, and then got a hold of me. So that was really like definitely being in the right place at the right time and like taking the call. Another time was when the first time going to France, I was on another gig. It was a Thursday, and I only know this because the place I still play there now. It's only Thursdays, and I was doing a duo gig in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and I got a phone call at like, I don't know, maybe 10 o'clock from John Primer's people. Actually, his wife Lisa does a lot of his managing and booking, which is awesome, and she's great at it. She had called me. I think I actually missed the call at first. And at the time when I saw it, I was like, oh no, what happened? Like, cause you know, phone calls at night and, you know, John ain't no spring chicken. You would never know that because Duke can rock out and like hang with the best of us full blown. But still, I was like, oh no, what happened? But I texted her right back. I said, hey, I'm on a gig. What's up? And she's like, hey, what are you doing? It might have even been like the following week. And I said, well, I was supposed to play here, but why? What's up? She goes, do you have a passport? I said, yeah, why? Well, what? John wants you. And I was like, oh, I'm there. I don't even know what the heck I was doing, really. Like, it was one of those, I'll know when I need to know. And I'll
you just say yes and you're like, I'll get there.
You know, so that was like, not only being in the right place at the right time, but like the door opened and like walking through and not him and Han and be like, well, I don't know this, you know. So those are definitely 2 very major like experiences that definitely kicked out, because before I came back from that first overseas trip, there was already talk about me coming back. You know, so I was on a gig and getting another gig, you know, while I was on it. But before that, as far as like, well, when did you know it was like, you know, it was taken off or you were making things work, as far as like the music full time? I don't know. The fact that I had like a roof over my head, like my rent was paid, you know?
Yeah.
It was, you know, nothing fancy, and I didn't have anything, you know, not a lot of money, but my essential needs
were doing it.
Were met.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then too, I think when I again, like when I had my first original album with all original music, and I actually wrote all of it, produced it, distributed, like I did it all on my own, out of pocket, and people actually liked it. Which that would be cool for anyone. And then the fact that it was like my first time doing it, and I mean, I had some sort of grasp of, okay, well, I guess this is, you know, the route I should take, or like the roadmap on how to complete this project, but I'd never done something like that before. You know, so when I did that, I guess that was another like, okay, all right, that's cool. I can do this, you know. But even we're all still always trying to make it though.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, never. You can't stop.
Yeah, no. That's like
Yeah.
sometimes when people say like, "Oh, you're always getting better," and I don't mean that like to be offensive. I'm like, no. I actually would be offended and worried if you said you sound just the same, because then that's scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you know, keep on with the keep on, I guess.
Yeah. So I think we have time for about one more question. And so something that you just were talking about just now, talking about writing your first music and stuff. So I got curious.
Yeah.
What, like writing your first song, what inspired you? What were you feeling?
The first song of that,
yeah.
so the first album I had is called Time to Shine.
Mm-hmm.
And the first song on there is Time to Shine. That was not the first, that song didn't even exist until literally, this is so cliche. Backstory story, put it, you know, VH1. But it's cliche, but it's true. That song didn't exist until like the last 2 days of studio time. And I forget I don't even know if I had a name for the album beforehand. We had just had 9 or 10 blues tracks that were pretty traditional, standard blues. You know, talked about like I have one song on there called Girls Night, and it's all about, you know, ladies' night, going out to party. Boys don't, you know, they're nice, but we ain't going out trolling for gays. And so I might have just was going to be like Ivy Ford for his original album. And then we had been in the studio. We were having like 1 or 2 more days, if that, to maybe just clean up some stuff or putting last touches in. And I was in the shower and singing, and I was just thinking of, what was it? I just thought of the phrase "time to shine." Just, you know, where it's like, hey, it's go time, or it's your time to shine. Like, better now than never. And that's all I had. And then I kind of thought, I kind of got this feeling like, this is something that should be, you know, excited or praised or really encouraged, but bluesy or whatever, which just naturally is very inspirational, which then goes into like gospel church music, and which I was raised in that for as a young kid for a spell, so I'm very familiar with that. And then before the rest of the song just kind of wrote itself real quickly. I mean, literally, I got out of the shower, wrote it down real quick, and I think I was like 19 or 20, and I was playing in a band as a singer, as like a background singer and a keyboard player. And I got an electric guitar for my birthday. I think I learned how to sing Stand By Me on it.
Great song.
Guitar, yeah. I still sing it to this day. The guitar player in that band, now mind you, I'm like 19, and he was like at least 50 something. Had been been around for a while. Not like around like he was known, but he essentially got butthurt and like intimidated that I was playing guitar, which I wasn't that good. Like really, this wasn't, you know. And he told me essentially after he got done, one of like, okay, $50 for you, that type of gig. He said, I want to talk to you, you know, I think you should really just stick to piano, because I don't think guitar will ever be your thing. and actually you should just focus on singing. So talk about like a real, and I don't know if I was just young and dumb for it to like really hit, because my feelings weren't hurt necessarily. I think I just didn't think about it. And ironically, the band that was necessarily his band, they got wind of that. And a week later, they fired him, and they said, it's your band. And that's how I had my first band, Ivy Ford and the Cadillacs. And they're like, and I'm 19, this was grown dudes, like everyone was at least like almost 40.
No way.
Mm-hmm. So, and I was like, they're like, we'll play for you. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. But I, you know, fake it till you make it, and it worked out. I had a lot of miles and traction with the whole Ivy Ford and Cadillacs thing. And my original bass player, up until like a year ago, that was my bass player until he like retired.
Oh my God.
The harmonica player in that band is my best friend. When I got married, when I was at my wedding, I didn't have bridesmaids. It was him and my brother. So like, very cool.
Wow.
But yeah, the guitar player, he was like, you shouldn't do this and whatever. And then as time went on, I'd meet different musicians. And I was primarily just a singer, and I didn't play guitar. I could hold it. Okay, it looked cute, but I didn't really play it. And so people would ask me, like, hey, we're having this party, like, hey, we're having this jam. We'd love for you, Ivy, to come and sit in with us and sing. And I sincerely enjoy myself and would kind of show up and show out because that's what we're here to do. And it would intimidate a lot of people. And so I would get phone calls from people that say, like, hey, we want you to come to this party because you're great. We love what you do and you bring so much to the show, but maybe not bring so much of you. Because I know that I'd be like, what? And not we want you to bring Ivy, but like not so much Ivy.
Oh no!
And it wasn't because I was obnoxious. It was because I guess like I was intimidating to other people, and that's not why I was doing. Like, what the heck, you know? And
that's on them.
Yeah, exactly. And so I had some monumental experiences of that a lot. And then the only time I think where it would kind of bother me was because it would hurt my feelings to feel that I was like putting other people down. You know, like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, you know.
Yeah.
So I had dealt with that a few times. So time to shine, the hook is time to shine. Don't let no one do you dim. And that's don't let someone else try and dim your light only to make them brighter. They should rise up, you know, to the occasion. And then it just started, you know, pouring out of me. So wrote it all down. Went to the studio, I think the next day or whatever, with my bandmates. And I was like, hey, I don't know. I just kind of jump in. Let me start playing this and jump in if you feel comfortable. And so I started singing, you know, time to shine, little mama. And they jumped in and we played through it real quick. And my bass player, he goes, I think that's the title track to the album. Boom. Yeah. So as far as like the thought process and the writing process for the first song on the first album, that's how it came out. What I don't think about that. They're like, again, like it's been a while since I've talked about that, but yeah, it's how it came to be.
Wow.
And still to this day, people like we love Time to Shine, and I've had people that have like messaged me or reached out to me, and have said like, I bought your CD some years ago, and I'm going through this hard time, and I listened to it all. That Time to Shine song, it just makes me feel so good and whatever. And I'm like, oh man, like that's what it's about. Like, you know, I mean, obviously we appreciate the support and CD sales, and that's what pays our bills and, you know, feeds us. However, that's not why I think any creative does what they do. It's, you know, to inspire and make people feel good or feel something, you know. So, but yeah, so it's like my personal anthem. I don't mind other people using it. Please use it, you know. But yeah, that's what I use as my personal anthem because it's true. And I've been there where people have tried to like put me down. It didn't, and I didn't like get sour grapes about it. Again, I think because I was just naive. I didn't know. I was like, it doesn't compute, so I'm gonna just keep doing me. But okay, thank you. I think doesn't matter. Not really. But you know, so I've been all right with that. But I know for some people that'd be a lot to take in, and then they feel guilty. You're like, oh, they put me down. I'm not good enough. We all don't think we're good, man. And again, you can be, you know, what was it again in the song? The second line is, you know, you can be your own worst enemy, but you're allowed to be your very best friend. Yeah. You know, mic drop. No,
I mean, it's true. Wow.
Yeah.
What a whole story. I mean, all of it. That's incredible.
Man. Yeah, it's crazy. And I guess it's, in some cases, like that's where a lot of my personal motivation, that's where it all comes back to. And I think is a really, when I do think about it, it's a very strong foundation, which is probably why not the longevity of my career and hopefully continue for years to come.
Heck yeah.
You know, that's the success of it. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, thank you so much, Ivy. I had so much fun talking to you.
Heck yeah.
That was awesome. Thank you for watching, you guys. See you next time.